Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Gold and silver got slammed today. Here's why. Let's explore. That's right, what you're looking at here are prices of what was for gold and silver, the prices they were before the markets opened up on Sunday night. And this was a freeze frame on Kitco, but let's see what they are right now. Look at these numbers here. Boom! Hit hard. Gold is down over 1.84%. Slid down $34.40, $1,837, $1,837. You know, there was a time where we were thinking that $1,800 gold would be a dream. Well, we might be getting closer to that dream if these trends continue, which I don't think they will. I think these prices are going to reverse. Silver's down 59 cents, over 2.4% decrease. And as I've said before, as is usually the case, gold tends to, when gold falls, silver falls harder and faster. And that's what's happening here. The gold to silver ratio is now up to 77.93. So it is something to see these metals perform the way they are. Let's see what's going on as to why this is the case. It's a familiar story. Another announcement of a vaccine. The United Kingdom this time. Gold prices end lower Monday as vaccine progress slams the precious metals. Gold futures on Monday finished sharply lower as investors unloaded the metal amid news of prospective vaccines and treatments for COVID-19 that may be momentarily undercutting demand for precious metals, according to this article here from MarketWatch. If you enjoy the content I post here, I encourage you to press that like button very gently. You don't have to slam it. You don't have to crush it. You don't have to hit it with a ball-peen hammer or a sledgehammer. Just a light little touch on it will all be that matters. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort at all. December gold settled off $34.60 or 1.8% at $1,837.80. Now it's $1,837. The decline marked the steepest one-day drop for futures since the 5% drop on November the 9th. The drop bullion comes as drug makers are making progress on a COVID-19 vaccine. Drug maker AstraZeneca said a study found that the vaccine it is developing with the University of Oxford showed a 90% efficacy in late-stage trials. Vaccine progress has been a drag on bullion because it undercuts the haven appeal for gold and silver, dealers say. And, you know, that is really the bottom line. Of course, the dollar strengthens with this news, too, and that's what's happening. The dollar is strengthening. And because I think, well, we may see the sunset of this horrible pandemic, which has crippled the economy for so long. But nonetheless, there are another aspect of this that this is a 90%, and then I think for another group of people it's a 60%. I think it's for the elderly and the like. Whereas it's surprising that this has had such an effect on precious metals today, because the effective rate is 90%, which is less than the other two American companies. But the fact that it's a third and it's a pile-on, Johnson & Johnson has yet to announce what their effective rate is. They are the ones that ran into troubles with the trials with some, I guess, some side effects, or somebody got sick doing it, or one or a few people out of 30,000 is actually a pretty good number. But nonetheless, they are the only one that is promising this vaccine with only one shot instead of two. But nonetheless, it is encouraging news. But again, you know how the markets are, and how they react to this. These are here today. These low prices, they could be gone tomorrow. With the previous announcement of the Moderna vaccine, it was gone. These dips evaporated within hours, essentially. And I have a feeling this is what's going to happen here too. unless Johnson & Johnson can come out very soon, which I think they're going to be sidestepped by this a little bit. But even as such, this is news where the real good news is FDA approval. And I don't think we're going to see another slam in these prices down, because then that means once it's FDA approved, they can be distributed. And if this happens in mid-December, the Trump administration is ready to logistically move these vaccines to long-term care facilities and the like. But if you're like me, I'm still very nervous about these vaccines, and I myself will probably refrain from taking it. The vaccines in general kind of make me a little bit nervous, but I think if I was in a high risk category, I may consider it, because you have to weigh the good and the bad, and who knows, whatever the bad may be. Some of the Pfizer vaccine, I think, has a little bit of from what I understand, it has a pretty big, it gives you kind of a hangover effect, the side effect of this thing. But nonetheless, there's where it is. The simple news is another vaccine has been announced, and see how this thing plays out. But these dips that we've been seeing in gold and silver, you think about it, this metal here, silver and then gold, what do? They are acting as safe havens. And so when people feel safe, well, they forget about gold and they forget about silver, at least in the markets to a degree. For you and I that pay attention to the news, we see this as a buying opportunity when the prices are this low. Unfortunately for me, I'm not able to take advantage. But nonetheless, it is a buying opportunity. But I want to encourage you and caution you, for anybody who normally would say, hey, this is a buying opportunity, buy. I would say this, cautiously weigh your financial situation. If you can take advantage, by all means, do so. But the prices could go even lower. In fact, I would even dare say that if one of these vaccines gets approved by the FDA come mid-December, we may see prices that we haven't seen in quite a while. I'm talking, since pre-pandemic levels. We could see potentially silver go down to $20 or just below it. We could see gold go into the $1,700 range at that particular time. I would not be surprised if we saw those a massive dip in gold and silver once the FDA approves these vaccines. But again, that will be short-lived as well. We have to look at the longer term here, folks, with gold and silver, as is always the case. And what is the longer term? Well, we have something that has been going on since before the pandemic, and has only been exacerbated by government intervention and monetary stimulus. And this stimulus is essentially a modern monetary theory in practice, and we have the coming global reset, the big reset that they're talking about in the open now that is going on, which is essentially a massive redistribution plan and revaluation of debt. And I think this thing revolving around digital currencies and some sort of secure ledger system like a blockchain or something like that, merging with cryptocurrency technology. We're talking about FedCoin. We're talking about these central bank digital currencies that are being bantered about these days by the International Monetary Fund. These are real concerns. We have massive deficit spending that will not go away no matter what the outcome of the election will be. It will not go away. There's going to be massive spending. There's going to be massive debt created. You saw the debt clock when I posted my latest video about the silver is the number of ounces of silver mined per year per the amount of M2 money supply created per year. Very important numbers. I think in some way that's even more important than the price of silver. It's saying $23.65 when you have over $4,300 printed for each ounce of silver mined per year. That's the M2 money supply year on year end. That tells us something much more than the price of silver. That's why I do those videos. And it tells you where we are at no matter what happens. And let's say this pandemic didn't happen. well, we would still see quantitative easing. We would still see the remnants and effects of these repurchase agreements that we talked about at the end of last year. These things are real problems and real issues out there. Sooner or later, some of these nations, some of these Eastern nations that are part of the BRICS, which obviously are included in that, there's other nations as well, that they understand gold as a value. That's why the central banks hold it. And people in Turkey, well, the populace holds it. In India, they hold gold per capita as a part of a cultural and an understanding of valuation of debt and the like. And I'm going to use another reference to to the series called Fargo. Starting to watch season 4 of this, and where this gang comes in and offers to a bank, a Midwestern bank, one of the biggest banks in the Midwest in this historical context in the late 40s, the idea of seeming to be rich. And that's what it's about when you use a credit card. And that's this idea of a credit card, this one made of metal, but hearing about some good things with plastics. Well, and they offer the idea of a bank to be able to, for people to buy on credit. A very foreign concept to the banker at the time, in this time period. Look where we're at today. We live, breathe, eat, and die by the credit card, by debt, even as a society. And boy, there's no bounds with regards to the United States credit limit, because they can just up the credit limit every time Congress meets. It was 11 times that occurred under the Reagan administration. Can't even count how many times it's been done in subsequent administrations. And for us, we live and die by the credit limits of the that are given to us by our credit card company. I had mine reduced recently because I didn't use it as much. And then I got a letter about 3 months later stating we have changed our mind. We're upping your credit limit again. We apologize, Mr. Metal. All right, well, you can call me Uncle Sal, credit card company, because I use you. I used you essentially to get credit card points to pay for purchases. But other than that, I try to pay you off, Mr. Credit Card Company, by the end of the month if I can. But nonetheless, there we are. We are a credit-driven society, and this particular note that I hold in my hand, it is a debt instrument. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's not what silver and gold are. That is true and real money. That is you hold within your hands. This is something of value that will preserve your wealth as an insurance policy that holds that status and that designation for literally thousands of years. And that is something that will continue to be, no matter what happens, no matter what the federal government does, no matter how big or no matter how small the federal government gets, really no matter what happens to our debt, no matter what happens to our deficits, gold and silver will shine on as to what they are, and they will continue to be what they are because of the intrinsic value contained therein with these metals. So therefore, I encourage you and implore you to hold some gold and silver, but to do so under the restraints of your budget and your circumstance and your situation, because it is a moot point if you try to acquire these metals and you go into massive debt and have to pay an incredible amount of interest and get yourself in hot water to the point where you can't keep them because you've spent too much money to acquire them. They are beautiful metals for sure. Their beauty is really largely what attracts me to them, but also the historical intrinsic value obviously as well. But nonetheless, they're down today. But they are down in terms of their price, not in terms of their value. There's a big difference. So press on, hold on. I hope you found this video informational and encouraging. And I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.